Okay, hello. I just wanted to make a video um, on overmind because I've been making some changes to the typing because the way typing was put into the project now wasn't quite correct. It's let me show an example of what I mean. Let's see, TypeScript. So, for example, if you use React and you're going to create like a props type, foo string, and then you want to create a component, my component, and then you do this. This is not the way to do it. Now you're not saying that you're returning a component. You're just saying that, okay, this is just an arbitrary function and I want this props to be props. Like, it works, kinda, because you are indeed getting the props here, but you're not saying that this function is actually a signature for components. But if you do this, React SFC props, you don't need this type anymore, because now you say that, okay, whatever we put into here is going to match the signature of a React stateless functional component with these props. And now this works correctly also as a return type. And this is quite similar to how we have been defining the functions in overmind. We've been doing this kind of thing, which we shouldn't do. And I've also been reviewing the whole typing and everything. And I thought we could just review this to do MVC demo. Let's see, that was the DevTools. To do MVC demo, just to get a feel of what's changed. So, for example, if we take a look at the actions now, you just get one of the changes now is that every action has this action callback. So there's not like export default action like this. You now export every single action and you receive this action argument. And this is so much better because now you can define your actions in a module. Like, you can separate them. It's easier to extend them because you don't have this comma separating them. And yeah, and it's also easier to compose them. So if, for example, I wanted to run change new to do title down here, I could say like let's say that I have like a compose operator here. I could do change new to do title. I could call it with the action here. So this is like a factory, action factory, which you use to produce actions for like produce an action for this specific action. So even if you compose in other things, you're using the same factory for producing this specific action, which I think is very clear and correct because it has to do with debugging and everything. So you're not composing existing actions, you're just borrowing, you're just delivering factories to these functions and then you compose it all together. Okay, anyways, I was supposed to talk about the types. So now we are just saying that this is an action, and in this case it's taking a change event. So we have to match that signature, and that is a callback where we get the action, which is typed, and then we have to say that this is indeed a change event action, and then we start doing the composition. Now this just syntax-wise, this looks a lot better as well. And then we can go, yeah, maybe we should follow like what's happening here. So if we now move to mutations, we actually have a mutation type. I'll get back to this later. But yeah, what we also do now is we don't import like the state and the effects, which actually gets quite complicated as you have namespaces and stuff with circular references and types and everything. All that is figured out now, so and made better. So what we're saying now is that we have a mutation type which already knows about all the state in the application. So we're saying that, okay, we want a mutation, and the value we get into this mutation is of a string. So when you start writing out this function, you know if you have a mutation signature, and you already have the state and everything. So if I let's see, yeah, it doesn't really care what you return here, but yeah, this was a bad example showing you, like, some of them doesn't allow you to return anything. This one is just ignoring, so it doesn't care what you return. But anyways, as you can see, we get the value here as a string. And if you don't care about the value, you just have a mutation, plain mutation. Okay, and then we have operations. So I've been calling this thing for helpers, but it's very, very generic. So in an action, you have operators. And these operators performs operations. So I think operations is a good term. And as you can see, like we did with mutation, we can import map and do. These are different operations. So we are saying here that I'm going to map, and these are different. Like, the operations have different signatures. So for example, the map, and they don't only have, like, the callback signature is the same, but the typing signature is different. So for example, a map, map means you want to return a value. So the first type you give it is what you want to return, and I want to return a string. And then the second type here is the change event. That's the value you actually get into the callback. Because you don't always care about the value that goes in, and then you don't have to type that. But yeah, and then you have do, which, and here I can show you. So if I return a string here, I thought it was supposed to give an error. Yeah, that's strange. I thought it was supposed to give an error, because this doesn't want you to return anything. Oh no, sorry. This also doesn't care about what you return. It just ignores it. Maybe we should figure out a way to actually give... Well, we shouldn't give errors on this, because then you would have to do like this, which is completely unnecessary, of course. Sorry. Yes, but if I would like do this, I will get an error because it doesn't match the signature. That was my whole point, that you have to match the signature. Cool. And then we can move on to, for example, computed. And again, we import a compute that knows about your state already. And we want this compute to receive a number. So we just type it over here, and then we are free to express the signature without typings, which I think is much more cleaner. You just say what you want, and then you just write plain code, and it's already typed for you. So we see we have number, we get the state, and then we do our thing. And this is the same for derived. We say derive, and here we just get the state. And then we have effects. And by the way, we also have the same for reactions. I just don't have an example here. So here we have, well, yeah, effects doesn't matter because you just type them manually. Cool. And then you have the index, where you basically just go and you import everything and export it as a single module. So that is what I landed on now, because if we go to the app, where you actually configure the app, you import the app here. So calling this module for app will just be conflicting. So what you do is that you either have one single module or you have a set of modules. So what we can see here, we are grabbing tconnect t module, and there's also t modules, which is used when you have multiple modules. You have the action, you have a t operation, which is actually a namespace, and you have t-derive, t-compute, and you also have t-reaction. So what we're doing here is we're importing the module, and this is important. We actually have to type, we have to create the types without actually instantiating anything because of circular typing and stuff. So what we're doing is we're just importing the module. We are giving that, we are creating a module type, so it knows about the state and the effects. So we just say type of module. Then we create the action, which by default is void, like you're not passing any value into the action. And then we give it a module, so that all actions knows about all state and effects. And then we have derive, which is very simple. We have compute, which should have a value. And then we have the different operators and their operation callbacks. And currently I put these on a namespace, t operation, and you actually have to type out all of them. I've been looking into this, like it would be great to have like a namespace for this, but namespaces don't take generic types, so you can't like give a namespace a module and then you get some types back. I also did this thing where you would kind of like have t operations, and I would do like map, and then I would have the type there, any, and then you were able to like say t operations map test like that. So you could actually do stuff like that, which worked, like looks kind of nice, but then you can't have generic types on them. As I said, the different operations has different type signatures, which this doesn't support. Yes, so there's really no good way to do this. Like if you wanted to, you could put all of these operations into its own file and export them, and then you could do, for example, operations like operations.map, for example, if you did import operations from operations, for example. But currently I think this looks, it works perfectly fine, and this will be the same for all applications. So you can just copy paste it from the documentation and you only do it once. So yeah, that's oops, that's that stuff. And this actually works really well. I think everything looks so much cleaner now. Everything in overmind is a function signature, and you define everything as just simple functions. Every function you define already has a type which you set like this, and then you just write out your function. And all the composition works really great, and so on. Yes, I also found a solution. Maybe it's, you already knew this, but there was an issue with TypeScript and exporting, like exporting these functions here, like we're using inline kind of, well, what's it called? Like the, not a named function, but we're assigning an arrow function, which in TypeScript doesn't, it's unable to pick up the name. So in the DevTools you wouldn't, oh, I don't have the DevTools here, you wouldn't be able to see it. But if you're using the latest Bubble, Bubble 7 with TypeScript, it works. So that's really nice. So we just have to recommend using Webpack and Bubble setup. Well, I guess you can use Parcel as well, as long as you're using Bubble 7. Cool. That's, yeah, and the last little thing, and now when you export to Connect, you just export a type of app. You don't have to be so explicit about stuff. But yeah, I think this really cleans up stuff. We can also look quickly at the dev tools. It has the same setup now. So we're just typing everything here. We also here have a single module. So basically you would, you would do modules instead, and T modules, and you would then say module A, type of module A, module B, type of module B, and you would use that instead of module in all your typing, and then you would just create the namespace as normal, and yeah, you should be good to go. Anyways, let's look at the actions here. As you can see, that like you haven't seen the before image here, but it looks so much cleaner. And again, I just have on message up here. I could even export on message, so it would be available as single actions in any other modules, because previously you would have to actually create all the actions of a module to just use one of them composed into other modules. But anyways, so it looks really nice. We have derived here, just derive, blah, blah, blah. We have some effects, and the operations, map filter, do. Yeah, I think this is so much better. It feels really consistent. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I'm updating the documentation. So yeah, I'm just going through the documentation to update the latest changes. There's still something wrong with site and now deploying to the next overmind.js site, but but it works on the main site, so I will just start deploying like the latest documentation on overmind.js. Yes, I guess that's it. I hope you like the changes, and it shouldn't be too difficult to refactor. I refactored both to do MVC and the DevTools, and it was a quick thing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the changes. Thanks.